the fuck are you doing? I caught you red-handed again.
Hey, what'd it do?
Come outside, I'm outside.
Is this about the student loans?
Yes.
Oh, see what had happened.
No, that is exactly what it's about.
The Supreme Court ain't got nothing to do with
You
me.
were supposed to fix this, Joseph.
I can put something on it.
No, the 10,000 or 20,000 was putting something on it, and that wasn't even enough.
Look, you got to make it enough. I said I'm trying. Sorry.
See,
You're breaking up.
This motherfucker.
Big girl got it going on. Got enough to last all night long. Back that thing on up a little weight, don't bother me. Girl, I like a little cushion. I like a little cushion.
Debt validation. Collection agencies buy their debts on huge spreadsheets for pennies on a dollar. They don't have the necessary information that they legally have to have in order to collect on that debt, such as date of birth and social security number, etc. There's a huge list. That's why when they call, hello, is this so-and-so? I need you to verify your date of birth and your social so we can confirm we have the right person. It's not to confirm they have the right person. It's so they can get the info that they legally need to collect the debt. Most of us are like, oh, my date of birth is 5/21, blah, blah, blah. So you Google something called a debt verification letter. You send it off. They have 30 days to respond. If they don't respond, it's invalidated. Most of the time they will respond and it'll say, sorry, we don't have the information needed to collect this debt. This debt is now invalid. You send that into the credit bureaus and it's wiped away as if it never existed. It doesn't show up as a paid off debt, an old debt, nothing. It's completely wiped away as if it never existed and your credit score continues to rise.
Just send the letters certified so you make sure they got there. But this is legit, Edward verified.
Excuse me, are you following me?
Huh?
Are you following me?
No, I'm following that ass though. Why?
Excuse me?
I mean, you acting.
Helping Races Clean House, Part 5, the Cadillac Edition. How Black America Saved Cadillac. Now I'm willing to bet this is going to be by far the most interesting story you are going to hear all day. Boy, my freckles really come out in the sun, don't they? The truth be told, I think Cadillac is probably America's most well-known biracial brand. Have I got your attention yet? Now, I asked Boo Boo here what he knew about Cadillac, and he didn't know a damn thing. Most people don't. Do you know Cadillac was formed in 1902 from the remnants of Ford? I kid you not. Henry Ford had 2 failed car companies before starting Ford Motor Company. His second was the Henry Ford Company, and in 1902 it went under and he was selling off the assets, and a man named Henry Leland, along with 2 investors, bought the company and renamed it Cadillac. Have you ever wondered where the name Cadillac comes from? I might know a thing or two about that. Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac is the man who discovered Detroit, Michigan in 1701. Now, in 1909, General Motors acquired Cadillac, and they became America's top luxury auto manufacturer. But when the Great Depression hit in the late 1920s, everything went to crap for everybody, including Cadillac. They lost 84% of their sales in a 5-year span from 1928 to 1933, and General Motors convened their board to put Cadillac on the chopping block. My girl maybe put that in there. It's a yucca plant or something, I don't know. So Cadillac had the board convened in 1933, and in walked Nicholas Dreystadt, a German-born man, lived here in America, who was a genius mechanic and head of Cadillac's service division. He came in and said, I can turn Cadillac around in 18 months. Naturally, the board called BS on him, but was curious how. He said, I travel to our service centers and dealerships all around the country, and I see elite Black American driving our Cadillacs, the doctors, the lawyers, the entertainers. He goes, but Cadillac has a policy where we discourage sales to people of color because we don't want it to tarnish the brand. And he goes, these Black Americans are paying white men $300 on top of the price of the car to buy the car for them so they can drive caddies. He goes, I bet if we take that away and we just open the doors, I think we can turn Cadillac around. They agreed. And in 1934, Cadillac did just that. Sales went up 70% in 1 year. Black Americans bought so many Cadillacs, it literally changed the fortunes of the company. Now remember, Cadillac was hurting as a brand because banks had failed, right? White America lost all their savings, everything. Well, the funny thing about the law of unintended consequences, if you remember, a lot of Black Americans could not get loans from banks and could not keep their money in banks. So I don't really ever see this talked about, and I find this fascinating, but I know a lot of Black Americans had to keep money hidden away at home, the backyard, the mattress, or whatever. So when the Great Depression hit and the banks failed, Black Americans not being able to put their money in banks were protected. And they were able to buy these cars, luxury items, in the middle of the Great Depression and turn Cadillac around. In a way, I think Cadillac transcends all races. Now, Cadillac has owned their history when they wouldn't sell to African Americans and then began to. They've actually owned that, okay? So no shade to Cadillac whatsoever. And they were also, I cannot prove they were definitively the first company, but I know they were one of the very first auto manufacturers to consult with Black employees about car design ideas to make the car more appealing to all Americans. And I think this worked. My dad's dream car was a Cadillac Sedan DeVille. In 1986, we got one, silver, red leather interior. He drove that thing to the Baptist church like he was boss freaking hog. That man loved that Cadillac. But here's the thing, a Black man, a Hispanic man, an Asian man, anybody could pull up to him of a different race in a Cadillac, and they start talking Cadillac stories, they're family instantly. Go to any car show and watch the same phenomenon happen. Most of you, depending any color you are or race, your parents or grandparents probably owned a Cadillac at one point or another. So it's just kind of funny how white America started and built this brand. Black people worked there, couldn't buy the cars. Cadillac realized the error of their ways and opened the doors all the way. And look at the success of Cadillac today. So that's kind of why I think they're the most well-known biracial brand in America. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have a great weekend.
So I'm sitting here drinking my Bake Sale Naughty Milkshake, and I found out something disturbing. Did y'all know the sinister reason behind why cookies are called cookies today? Up until the mid-1800s, cookies were actually known as jumbles, plunkets, or crybabies. But I'm about to tell you the creepy story behind how they began being called cookies. This right here is a picture of a young lady by the name of Emma Louise Cook. Emma and her family were known for their baking skills. They were actually one of the first families to open up a bakery in what is now known as Iran, but at the time it was Persia. Emma was married to a man by the name of John Cook, and they would go on to have 9 children. However, in the year 1805, her husband John ended up passing away from the smallpox disease. Unfortunately for Emma, this would be just the beginning of her turmoil, because over the course of just 1 year, she ended up burying all 9 of her children due to the smallpox outbreak. This was devastating for Emma, especially with them passing away so suddenly and losing everyone in less than a year. Her family ended up having her a new cabin built close to the bakery, close to the family bakery. Emma engulfed herself in her baking. At this point, she would spend every waking hour trying new recipes and things like that. She even started her own side hustle that would open up when the bakery would be closed. So she would sell like loaves of breads, different cakes, things like that to people around the town. One Saturday, Emma decided that she would do a huge bake sale for everyone in town. She invited everyone, and she was giving out free crybabies to any parents that brought their children and ordered at least one cake. People showed up in droves for this bake sale. Number one, because Emma's family was very known for their baking. So for her to be putting the cakes on sale, people were basically standing in line trying to get a piece of it. This is where the story takes a sinister turn. You see these 2 children right here. That young boy's name was Henry and his sister's name was Grace. Henry and Grace, along with their parents, were one of the first families to show up on this day. They came, they ordered their cakes, and they got their crybabies, and they left. However, not even 6 hours later, both of the children fell violently ill and they passed away within the night. However, they would not be the last children to pass away after attending this bake sale. Actually, most of the families that showed up, within 3 days' time, they lost their children as well. They ended up finding out that Emma had laced those cookies with a chocolate-coated arsenic and had poisoned all the children in town. When she was asked why she did this, she simply put it that she could not bear seeing all of these families with their children when she had buried all 9 of hers. Emma was eventually held responsible for her actions and for the unaliving of over 26 children, and the town ended up stoning her until she herself was unalived. As far as little Henry and little Grace, their story would later be told as Hansel and Gretel in the year 1812. From that time forward, no one referred to them as crybabies anymore. They began calling them cookies because of Emma's last name. Being a person who loves cookies, this story was extremely disturbing because I made it all up. And I don't know how you have it.
Apparently it's a bad idea to wear a butt plug to an MRI. My name is Courtney Peterkin, and I'm a personal injury attorney here in upstate New York. It's the personal injury case that is sweeping the nation. The commotion stems from a post by Twitter user @Bradius0, alleging that a lawsuit had been filed against a sex toy company after a person purchased a butt plug that was advertised as being 100% silicone and then wore said butt plug to an MRI appointment. The tweet reads, "Much to client's dismay, butt plug in fact has metallic core. Butt plug is accelerated at the speed of sound into client's chest cavity." The Twitter user was also kind enough to provide a copy of the imaging. And what kind of person would I be if I didn't share it with you? It's an interesting case for sure. I don't believe that this is a products liability case because there's nothing actually wrong with the product itself. Instead, I would say that it's more a negligence case in the sense that the sex toy company marketed this product as 100% silicone when in fact it was metal at its core. Now, while this case has that wow factor that we attorneys refer to, it might be a tough case. Now, when bringing this case, they're going to have to prove that the sex toy company had a duty to the purchaser. Part of that analysis is foreseeability. So the question then becomes whether or not it was reasonably foreseeable for the sex toy company to anticipate that a purchaser of the butt plug would then wear it to an MRI where it would be rocketed into his chest cavity. But could this sex toy company foresee this happening? Jury's still out on that. I'm only kidding. This case has not gone to trial. But if it does, I could see this being a problem.
So what should you do if you get home and you find this? So as a tax attorney, I'm going to tell you what not to do, is what most people do. They're like, I don't want to open this letter, so you know what? I think I'm just going to throw it in this trash can right here. And that is the wrong thing to do because the government has to give you due process. And most of the time that is contained in these certified letters. So if you get a letter from the IRS, do not be afraid. Go to the website below. It's not even my website. It's the Taxpayer Advocate's website. Type in your letter number and it's going to take you to something like this. Okay, so now you're here and you're going to type in your notice number. And guess what? It's going to tell you exactly what you need to do with that letter and kind of give you tailored information specific to that letter. And all you have to do is follow the instructions. Now, if you need help, always, yes, reach out to a qualified tax professional, but no more being scared. Open the mail, enter the letter ID, figure out what you need to do. If you need to get help, get help.
Hey, who made the baked beans? That's what I call these. I call them my who made the baked beans, because anytime I bring them to a party, I hear somebody, they're like, hey, who made the baked beans? Anybody know who made the baked beans? Hey, who made the baked beans? And I'm like, I did. I made the baked beans. Did you like them? Now, this recipe isn't about the baked beans. They come in a can. We already have the baked beans. It's what we're adding to the baked beans that makes them so special. Started off with about 2 pounds of onions. We added some smoked PSG, pepper, salt, garlic. Then we come in with some breakfast sausage. Once that's all cooked, we're coming in with 2 smoked sausages. I like to dice them up small so every bite's got little bits of sausage and smoked sausage. Now we drizzle on about a 1/3 cup of maple syrup and then about a 1/3 cup of that brown sugar. There's a lot of sweetness going on here, so we balance that with some sriracha and we let it simmer for about 20 minutes. This is the star of the show. We're going to add this to the baked beans, and that's how you get the Who Made the Baked Beans baked beans. I bought 5 cans of baked beans. I only needed 3.5, but they look good back there. You know what I mean? The aesthetic was on point. I opened them all, so I will be eating them, just not today. Luckily, one of my favorite snacks is dipping the Fritos scoops into cold baked beans, so I'm really excited that there's actually leftovers. Beans are going into the oven. Tree fed it to the cribbit! And that's it. That's all you gotta do to have the Who Made the Baked Beans baked beans. Bring them to a party, stand in the corner of the kitchen, and just listen. Listen for somebody to say it. And sooner or later, you're gonna hear.
Blockbuster Video, how can I help you?
Hey, this is Blockbuster, right?
Yes.
I'm actually on my way to this location, but it's gonna be like 3 days because I'm on like a road trip right now.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, do you check my ID before I rent a movie, or how does that work?
Yeah, so in order to rent a movie, we would need your driver's license and a debit or credit card to start your new account.
Okay, and so what happens if I just like get a ton of movies and just never bring them back?
So that's what the debit or credit card is for, just in case people don't bring back our movies. They'll get charged the full movie price.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like on my way there to put you straight out of business, and I'm wondering, like, how many DVDs do I have to take before you just completely have to close your store down?
I mean, we have over thousands of movies, and we're constantly getting more, so.
Right. I mean, being like the last Blockbuster, I'm sure you have like all the movies, right?
Somewhat all the movies. We also have movies
coming in to
for sale
take
as well.
I'm coming in to take them all.
Alright, for sure.
Okay, I love you so much.
Alright. Have a good day.
Wait, do you guys check before we come in, like, for like roaches and bed bugs and stuff?
I'm sorry?
Like, do you check like the bottom of my shoes and stuff to make sure I don't have roaches before I come in?
No.
Okay, a lot of like places over there do, and I'm like, I got some big ones, so just making sure.
Alright, sounds okay.
Okay, thanks.
You know, I was just sitting here thinking about that time that conservative Christians were outraged over a red Starbucks cup. You thought we forgot, right? No, we didn't. And you said it was an attack, a war even, on Christians. Not because you couldn't buy the cup, or because Starbucks discriminated against you or denied you service. No, simply because it was red during the holidays. And now you're the same people celebrating the Supreme Court's decision to deny service to members of the LGBTQIA community. But that's not a war. That's not an attack. It's constitutional. Just a friendly Sunday reminder. Anyways, bye.
Wait for the remix.
I'm telling you, I'm getting the fuck off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the fuck off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two fucks, but I am telling you right now, that motherfucker back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can fucking die with them or not. I'm not going to. Bye. But I am telling you right now, telling you right now, telling you right now, right now, right now, telling you right now, telling you right now, telling you right now, right now, right now. I don't give two fucks. Sway, that's my shit. I don't give two fucks. 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 That motherfucker back there is not real. Not real. Not real. I don't give two fucks.
That motherfucker back there
I don't give two
not
fucks.
real.
Doing my own research on the Titanic conspiracy theory, trying to figure out if I could prove it or not. And I accidentally wound up making one of my most dangerous and important videos. Cause I started here, and I wound up here. And if you don't know what this is, today you're gonna learn some stuff. So there's this conspiracy theory that JP Morgan back in the early 1900s had something to do with the sinking of the Titanic because he wanted the Federal Reserve to get started. And 3 of the most powerful people that opposed the Federal Reserve were on the Titanic when it sank. And there's a lot of meat on that bone, and I wanted to see if I could find that evidence for myself instead of just believing a conspiracy theory. Plus, anytime you see the fact checkers come out in droves, you know you're on the right track. But it got me to thinking, where did this term conspiracy theory even come from? Surely it wasn't created by someone like the CIA to discredit people that were seeking the truth and asking questions. I mean, it turns out that believing in conspiracy theories is correlated to lower analytical thinking, low intelligence, psychological projection, paranoia, and Machiavellianism. Okay, let's do some lower order thinking. I mean, you could use your dumb ape brain to look up the Pike Committee or the Church Committee, which were both held in the 1970s. They uncovered programs like MK Ultra, where the CIA was trying to learn to mind control people by torturing them and in some cases killing them. American citizens, prisoners, people in mental institutions. Oh, they also uncovered COINTELPRO, where they were infiltrating organizations like the Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, feminist organizations, environmental activism. Oh, and then there was Project Shamrock, where the major telecommunications companies were giving all of our information to this NSA. Yeah, that was long before the Freedom of Information Act. But conspiracy theories are generally designed to resist falsification, like having public congressional hearings where they are exposed to be true. Like in Operation Mockingbird, where the CIA paid journalists to publish fake shit. Like the Gulf of Tonkin, where they used a false flag or fake attack to start a war. Never heard of that before. Or like where they had a fully staged testimony by this gal who was a Kuwaiti girl that witnessed an atrocity that built support for the Persian Gulf War that didn't really happen. I mean, the Persian Gulf War definitely happened. Just ask all those people that made money from it. I mean, conspiracy theorists aren't always right, but when they say something sounds like a false flag, it's probably worth at least doing some due diligence. So if you don't know what COINTELPRO is, today's gonna change the way you see the world. It's shortened for Counterintelligence Program, and it's basically a term to refer to intelligence agencies like the FBI, CIA, or foreign ones like for Russia or China, subverting organizations that they feel are subversive. Infiltrating, discrediting, causing division, publishing fake news, fake stories, assassinations, basically any means necessary in modern warfare to undermine organizations. Confirmed list of organizations that were victims of COINTELPRO include feminist organizations, Communist Party USA, Martin Luther King Jr., Nation of Islam, a bunch of leftist organizations up there, but also right organizations like the Ku Klux Klan. Should I say that on TikTok? Like the Nationalist States Rights Party. In 1971, the FBI financed and armed a extremist group that they basically used as their secret army to attack other organizations. And this is literally only what's made it onto Wikipedia. You can do your own research. There's a lot more than this. This isn't even talking about the 90s and 2000s. And that's because Hoover totally shut it down once everyone found out. Like, over. Packed it all up and left. The FBI compiled an entire tape of blackmail on Martin Luther King and sent it to him with a letter that tried to convince him to commit suicide. And that was just a fucking conspiracy theory until some homies broke into an FBI field office and actually took a bunch of documents that showed it was real. Again, that is just the tip of the iceberg here. Blackmail is running our country to this day. Journalists and news agencies have always played a big role in covert intelligence operations against us, the people, often with explicit consent from management of America's leading news organizations. The point of COINTELPRO is to create negative public image for target groups, to break down internal organization by creating conflicts, create dissension between groups, to restrict access to public resources, to restrict their ability to organize, to restrict the ability of individuals to participate by discrediting certain individuals. You starting to make any connections yet to modern day? They infiltrate organizations, and they conduct psychological warfare by publishing false media stories and leaflets under the name of target groups. They spread misinformation about meetings and basically co-opt target groups. Officers of the law give perjured testimony and present fabricated evidence as pretext for false arrests and wrongful imprisonment. They pay for the creation of documentaries that paint groups in negative lights. I'm sure you've seen a few of those. You might have even thought they were real. Let's remember, these guys are really good at what they do. You're playing checkers. They're playing chess. Oh, and sometimes they just stop fucking around and just, get it done. So in light of all of that, let's piss some people off and challenge some people's perceptions. So let's remember that intelligence agencies that are often beyond governmental oversight have decades of experience at infiltrating and subverting dangerous political organizations on both the left and the right. And they do so by a variety of very complex tactics. Now, can you think of anything that might have possibly been done a little better with recent movements by the left? Like maybe a few mistakes were made, maybe a few pallets of bricks left out. I don't know. I'm not claiming I know what goes on. I'm just saying, and all you bozos on the right, I mean, we got lots of different things to choose from, but do some research. And let's be clear, the right to protest is very important. I'm not criticizing either side for protesting for their beliefs. What I'm saying is that in both of these instances, the protests turned into mobs that were then led to do things that discredited their own point and ultimately worked against them in big ways. Not to mention creating a lot of division between the left and right while we were at it. So I'm gonna leave you with a breadcrumb that I think leads to the next opening of this big picture. And it's a little complex, so pull out your thinking cap. So in December 2012, the FBI released a bunch of documents because of the Freedom of Information Act about how they had been surveilling and using COINTELPRO on Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street was pretty damn peaceful. They weren't a violent threat to anyone. They were a monetary threat. They were people waking up to the corporatocracy that rules this world. And then in 2020, Katie Ryder had a unique visit from a bunch of FBI agents that had information that they only could have gotten in one way. She had discussed a proposed ban on tear gas on a private 90-minute Zoom call with Bayer, the mega corporation that owns Monsanto, and a handful of other staffers. Ryder says the two officers refused to answer any questions about how they had become aware of this private meeting. Who on that call might have maybe had interests aligned with the intelligence agencies? It's not the 1970s anymore. The deep state is very well evidenced, and they've been operating for quite some time outside of public oversight. And the more I utilize my lower order thinking and low intelligence, the more it seems like maybe the people controlling this world aren't actually our elected officials. Maybe there are other alliances more powerful and with more influence than our elected officials. I mean, call me crazy. Who knows? So I never did figure out what the fuck happened to the Titanic, but I'm sure we'll still get to that. And just a disclaimer, TikTok, please don't censor this video. That is all public information, mostly on Wikipedia. It's not a secret. This is definitely not misinformation. And government, CIA, anyone else like that, y'all guys, this is just for educational purposes. I'm not calling for a revolution. I'm not calling for violence. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not far right or far left. I'm just some dude trying to read Wikipedia because I didn't pass high school and I'm trying to catch up on my education. Because this all started when